Yeah, we have not created any. So we'll be creating it up today. So we were discussing about the servlets, right? What
Yeah.
are servlets? So basically servlets are the server side class. Why we are calling them a server side class? Because they would be executed
On the server.
running on the server. They would be instantiated on the server. So when they are instantiated on the server, that means server should have the Java JDK, right? And the client uh, doesn't have the requirement of Java environment, right? Client may have Java, may not have Java. That is up to the client. It is not
Them.
required for the servlets, right? Servlets run on the server side. Okay.
Okay.
Now moving ahead, when I say I run the servlet on the server, so if I talk about this is my server and this is going to be my client, right? So client I'll consider as browser. So client I'll consider as browser. Just 1 minute. Right. So browser makes a request to the server. So say how will browser tell that, okay, I want so and so servlet, right? Because remember the client won't be knowing what are the servlets deployed in your server, right? You would be providing him a presentation like, okay, let's say a index page, a home page, and on the home page we are going to make all the links. For example, if he wants to go on the contact us page, so I'll give him a slash contact us hyperlink. So when he clicks on this hyperlink, right, he would be taken to the servlet, right? A servlet class. I'll call that class as a contact us class. So this contact us class will be mapped with this URL. Okay, this contact us class will be mapped with this URL. So how are servlets going to run? Servlets are uh, evoked when URL is request, URL request is
Is
received
requested.
on server, right? When the same URL is requested, server receives the request. So at that moment, server will look whether I have the mapped servlet. If yes, it will immediately initialize it, right? So when I say initialization means it will create the instance of that servlet. Okay. If the servlet is already there, I mean, the instance is already there, it will return that particular instance to the user just to avoid like memory consumption, extra memory consumption, because already I have an instance, right, which is not being used. So why to create a new one? So server would be taking care of this thing. It will provide that available instance to the client request, right? So servlet is the class which is going to run on the basis of the URL mapping. So once the URL is mapped, it will execute your servlet. Fine. Next, now I'm not going to write any servlet. And as I said, the server will require up the Java. Why? Because the class has to be compiled and deployed. In fact, the compilation is done, right? The programmer is or the developer is going to compile and deploy the build on the server, right? It will be writing up the program, creating up a build. Build means an archive file, right? Like you have a jar file. Similarly, web applications have a WAR file, WAR, web archive file. And those web archive file will have all the classes which are required to run your application. Okay. So once you deploy, once you place this thing inside the server, the process is called deployment, right? So all the necessary steps that required to run your application on a server is called like deployment. So now once it is deployed, you will require the Java environment, right? That is JRE. So JRE will be also available on the server, and then the servlet will be initialized, executed, and all the HTML stuff, right? HTML will be transferred to the browser in the form of response, right? So now when I have to make a servlet, I can put two types of configuration. One is XML configuration and another one is Java style configuration. Okay. XML configuration can be a little bit extensive, right? It can be big mapping you have to give. But now, in case if you are not aware of XML, I will tell you. XML is extensible markup language, right? Extensible markup language. So now why I'm calling it as markup language? Because it has opening and closing tags like HTML. So now what is the difference between HTML and this thing? HTML is a data presentation language, right? Data presentation type language. But XML is a data transfer type language. It is used in the data transfer, right? From one layer to another, or one connection to the other connection. So you transfer the data. So let's suppose I want to transfer an address. So I would be writing up a user-friendly, user-defined defined tags like address. Inside the address, you can make your own mapping, city, and street. So you don't have a universal mapping inside the XML. Okay. So one you can define for your application, and then other have to follow it. Fine. So similarly, Java has defined one mapping for servlet to be called from the URL, and that you follow inside the XML type of configuration of the servlets. Okay.
Okay.
The next one is Java style. So inside the Java style, it makes it very compact. You have to move into your code, and there you have to mention up a servlet as a web servlet. So when you define a class as a web servlet, and JE does a lot of work behind the scene to make this class as a web servlet, right? JE, Java 2E, makes a lot of enterprise edition, makes a lot of background work to make that class as a web servlet, right? But then you don't have to worry about that background work. It is all what Java and J2E is going to do. You have to only mention up a class as web servlet, right? Now, how we are going to create up this XML configuration and Java style configurations. So for the XML configuration, you are going to write a XML file that will be called as web.xml, right? One per application. Remember, this file will be one per application. You cannot have more than one. Okay, you cannot have more than one file. This is called as deployment descriptor, right? So this is called as deployment descriptor. So your web application will be deployed, and server is going to read all the configurations from this file, web.xml file. Okay, so remember, this is called as deployment descriptor, very important file. In case if you do not keep this, then you would have to follow all the Java style of configurations. But at some times, in case if you don't get a Java style configuration, you have to again rely back on the web.xml. Okay, so that is called as a deployment descriptor. Now inside this web XML, we will be writing up a servlet tag, right? Servlet tag. Okay, so obviously your servlet is a class, right? So you will have a servlet hyphen class tag, and inside this you will give the name of your package dot class, right? You'll give the complete package name dot class, and you will end your servlet hyphen class. Now you are telling server that, okay, this is my servlet, but from now onwards, you have to refer it using the name, a logical name, and not the actual file or the class name, right? So inside this, you can give a servlet name. This can be a logical name, right? Any logical name. For example, if you are writing up like show form servlet, you can write like a create form, that's all. So you can give a logical name to your servlet. So from now onwards, in the whole configuration, wherever you are going to mention up the servlet, you will mention it with the servlet name and not with the class name. Okay.
Okay.
Now, where are we going to mention up this servlet name? Very quickly, we'll write it over here. So we are going to give a mapping over here, right? As I said, your servlet will be mapped, your servlet will be mapped with a URL. So this URL will be called and a class will be evoked. So how is this URL is mapped with this class? So URL will be mapped to a mapping, sorry, a name, right? URL will be mapped to a name, and name will be mapped to a class. That is what we are going to do over here. So we'll have a servlet mapping, right? And here I'm going to write servlet hyphen name. So this is the servlet name that you have to mention over here, logical name. Okay, don't consider it as a keyword. This is just a name. You can write any name over here. I'm just writing up a general term. So I'll say servlet hyphen name, right? And now here comes your URL pattern, URL hyphen pattern. So for example, I want to write slash welcome.view, just a URL, right? Text welcome.view. This is a way of mentioning that this is a web page, right? Welcome.view. So here we write the URL pattern. So this is a small configuration you have to give when you are going to create a servlet, right? And this is the XML configuration. If you see, these are predefined tags, right? Servlet mapping. So these tags will not run in any other XML document. These are like for this particular technology, J2E, and inside the web application. So these may not work in your EJB. These may not work in your .NET because they are separate language. So here XML is telling your server that, okay, this is the logical name of the servlet and it is mapped with this particular servlet. And when you want to run this, you should run it when you get the URL as welcome.view, right? So this is my XML configuration. Any questions in this?
No, no questions.
Right. So let's make a web application quickly with the XML configuration, right? So we'll go back to our, I'll clear this. So I'm going to write a new others dynamic web
Wait,
project.
what's EJB?
EJB is,
I think that's what you mentioned.
Yeah, right. I told like we cannot use it in EJB. EJB is also enterprise Java beans. Basically, it is used for creating beans, right, and handling of the data, right. So we'll see it later. It is not required right now. It is a very obsolete technology nowadays. So next,
okay.
So here we are going to create a dynamic web project, right? Not a Maven, it's a dynamic web project. So here I'm going to write web hyphen app hyphen XML config. Okay, so I'm going to write a web XML config demo. And here, if you see, this is the project location. So wherever you want to save your project, you can give the location. Target runtime, very important point. Sometimes we have a specification that, okay, my application should run at a minimum of this version, right? At a minimum of this version. So now if I'm going to use this, this will be probably working on the JE 7 or 8, right? So if we want to reduce the version, we have to give the target runtime, right? Reduce this runtime. So maybe you have to use the previous versions, okay? So then rest we can leave as default. Next, so it will show you the default structure. You can ignore this, you can just say next. And now here, context root. Now context root, as I said, one server can have multiple application deployed, right? So if suppose this is like some server memory and it allocates this for application 1, right? And it allocates this whole memory for application 2, just a logical mapping, right? So application 1 and application 2. Now, if the client makes a request to this application, and suppose this server is having an address of like 192.168.1.108. So now if the server is calling it with the the client is calling it with the IP address. IP address is a computer address, right? So now this will point to this server, but there are two applications. Which one is to be called? So maybe we can map that with this name, right? A unique name. I cannot write like both as app1 and app1. This is going to be a conflict, isn't it? Then in that case, this will be a conflict. So we should write it so that it should be unique and there should not be any conflict between these applications, right?
Yep.
Okay. So now that is called as context path, right? The application is deployed in a context. This is something which is very important and we'll see in the upcoming lessons, context, right? So the whole of the memory where your application is running, right? So I'll call this memory area and where my whole application is running as a context, right? Context. And this will be called as the context path, the path to your context. Okay. All right, so we go back. That is what your Eclipse is asking to set up this application. It's asking, tell me the context root. That means tell me the context value, context path of this application. So you can, by default, Eclipse take it as a project name, right? But if you want to change, you can change this as well. My app, one, my app, right? Or something like, let's say, blog. So we can think of just a logical understanding. Think of like Google. Google has a lot of products, right? They may have a big server. Just a logical understanding. Actually, Google won't be working like this. I'm just giving you a picture. So think of like Google has a big server and it has a lot of application to run. So for example, if they want that everything should run behind google.com, like if someone writes google.com mail, so they would be mapping this as a context for the mail application. They will deploy a mail inside this, right? They will deploy another application, call it as photos. So they will have another application mapped with photos. Then they can have a third application, let's say search. Okay, so slash search. So a search bar, a search form will open. They can have, this way they can add multiple application on the same server and everything can be mapped with a unique context path, right? So this will be called as a context and the identifier for that can be called as a context path. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So here we can give a context root like blog. You know what is a blog?
Yeah, kind of.
Good. So we can write the content directory as web content. You can leave these as by default. This is the public directory where all the web pages would be created, right? So I click on this generate web XML deployment descriptor. This is something which we are talking web XML deployment descriptor, that all the configuration related to the server, servlet, and your web application will be added to this file. Now I can finish this. Now suppose if you missed adding this file, right? If you missed adding this file, you missed selecting this checkbox. So don't delete this whole project and restart like creating up again. It gives you the default configuration. Some people try adding it manually, which is also not good. Maybe you missed something. So here you have a Java EE tools and you can click this option, generate deployment descriptor stub. Yeah, right now, because the file is already created, it will not be enabled. So if you go over here, this file will have some default configuration. By default, it is inside the web content, web INF, web.xml. So it has some information, right? The information says that, okay, this is a web app and it contains a display name, right? What is the display name of this application? It won't be visible at our web application. We can check this later. Then we have a welcome file list. Now you have done some HTML. When you keep a lot of HTML pages in the folder and you try to open that folder in the browser, the first file that it tries to run is index.html. Isn't it? Are you aware of this?
Yeah.
Right. So that is called as a default file, right? And here also we can list some number of default files. Not necessary that it should be index.html only, right? If you want, you can give some custom file names also. For example, if I want that my application should always show a login view, right? So I can create a servlet, map it with login view, and then this login view, if available, will be opening by default. So this becomes a default page, right? WebXML takes some time to save and update the project. Every time I write the code inside this, it may take some time to update it, couple of seconds, maybe more than that, 5 or 6 seconds, and it can freeze our application till that time. Right. So now where are we going to create the servlet inside this and how we will add the configuration? So here inside the Java resources, or even if you want, you can directly come to the project, write new. By default, it gives you a servlet. We are not going to add this one right now. We will create our own servlet. Right. So I'm going to write Java file, my first servlet. Okay, my first servlet. So this my first servlet is a Java class, right? You may hear a term known as Pojo class, right? You may hear this term Pojo class. Do you know what is the meaning of the Pojo class?
Wasn't it? I think it was the class that sends and gets the data.
Basically, Pojo class is called as simple, plain old Java object. Any class, right? Any class which is not having any particular feature. So it will be considered as a plain old Java object. So this is a plain old Java object class, right? Now above this, we are going to build the servlet. So I'll tell this extends a HTTP servlet class. Right, HTTP servlet. So this HTTP servlet is the JE class, Java 2E class. And this is going to give my first servlet the feature of being a servlet so that it can be called by the URL. All right, just give me 1 minute. Right, so this HTTP servlet class will give my first servlet the feature of being a running on the web and compiling, I mean executing on the server and returning the response, getting the request and returning the response to the client. Now what is this HTTP servlet? If we just try to explore this HTTP servlet class is an abstract class. If you check, this is an abstract class, right? So now if I look at this abstract class, obviously abstract class can have methods like both your method implemented as well as like abstract methods. So if we just explore this, we get a doGet method, right? So there is a doGet method. Then we have a do head. So there can be a lot of methods, doGet, doPost. Now what are these doGet and doPost method? Now even when you are going to write your first servlet, right? Whenever you are going to write your first servlet, since it is going to be running from the URL, right? That means if I go over here and write a local host, my server would be like 8080 port number. So my server would be running on some service, right? On some port number. So I'll tell that, okay, my request should go on this particular port number and the port number is mapped with your server, right? So here I'll say write web hyphen, we gave some context path, right? So we gave some context path. So now this project is right now on my hard disk. This is not in a server, and I have added one server in my project, right? Now, how can you add this server? I'll tell you that shortly while we end our class. So this server is already there in my system and there are a lot of applications, right? So I will also deploy this application. So how to add this project into your server? I'll right click on this project, run as, run on server. All right. Remember, server, your Eclipse and this Tomcat server will create a copy of your application, right? Wherever you have kept this project, it is there, but it will pick up a copy of this, right? Whatever changes you have made and will add it inside the server, right? It will add it inside the server. Got it? So server will have its own copy of your application. This is not at the place where you have kept this project. This is inside Tomcat server, right? So now if we go and run this, we call like my home page as index.html. We don't have any page. If I go and create one new HTML page, Let's call it as index.html. Next, finish. HTML page, basic HTML page. We can write a message here. Welcome to J2E. Okay. So now if I go back and just refresh up my page, see, it's calling up this page, right? But I don't have any servlets right now. So if I write any servlet, like I have written a my first servlet, I want to call this my first servlet, assume that welcome with the welcome URL, right? So if I want to call this with the welcome URL, it won't be running right now because it cannot identify that any servlet is mapped with this URL, any file is mapped with this URL, isn't it?
Yep.
So we are going to mention this here inside our web application. So I'll tell that we have a servlet. All right, we have a servlet and let's give the servlet name. I'll give the servlet name as like welcome servlet. Okay. And in actually the servlet class can be different. So you map it with the class. So we haven't given any package, I believe. So let's check what is the package we have given. Looks like we have not, right? This is one very important point. Always keep your servlets in package. So here we can write package com.jstrainer.view. Okay, why I'm writing view? Because this is going to be interacting with the client. It would be displaying some data to the user, right? It would be giving some message to the user as a web page. So now it's giving me error because the class is in some other package. We don't have this package. So I'll say move this class to the package and now it does it. It refactors it, right? So now if I run this my first servlet, right? If I want to run this my first servlet, I have to create a mapping over here. We have already done the naming, but now I want to write a mapping also. So I'll call it as servlet mapping. The servlet mapping, the servlet with the name welcome servlet is mapped with the URL welcome.view. Okay, so save this. I think we have not written the servlet class in a minute because this has been freezed now. Right. So our package name is com.jstrainer.views. Let's check what is the name I have given, view. Okay, so view dot my first servlet. Okay, so this is a mapping given. Now when you are going to give a call to the welcome.view, right, when you are going to give a call to welcome.view, this particular servlet will run, right? Now when a call comes from the browser, when a call comes from the browser, what type of call it is? There are different calls from the browser. There can be a call which can be requesting for the data. There can be a call which may be sending the data, right? There can be a call which will tell that, okay, delete this particular resource. Okay, you want to delete some data of a user, student, right? A book. So there are different methods. These are called as methods. For example, if I just write, I click this, I run this request. Now, though it is a like error request, not an issue, I just wanted to show you, you inspect it inside the network. I opened up this tab using the right click and inspect option. So you get this tab. Inside this, open the network. Whatever URLs you call from your browser or whatever it runs, every request can be displayed over here. Right? For your application, it can be few. But if you see the other application like Gmail or Facebook, you'll find like hundreds of requests are running on the same page. Right? They may be doing a lot of work in the background. Even you may not be aware. So you can see everything from here. So for example, now I have requested the web-app. Okay. And if I check the headers, see what is the request method?
Get.
It's a get, right? It's a get. But while if I go for, let's say, Facebook, and I want to submit some data, right? So I'll check the inspect element of this network. Right, so if I try to submit the data, let's see what happens. So here we see consent. Now see, what is the request? It is post. That means it is sending the data, right? It is sending the data. Oh, with this also someone is there. Anyways, we can close this. Okay, so you saw like two requests. One is get, when I call it from the browser, when I directly call a URL. When I submit some data, that is a post, right? You can submit in the get form also. You can submit it in the get form also. That is fine. There is a different implementation that the get method, these are called as the HTTP methods, right? These are called as HTTP methods. So when I talk about the HTTP methods, can you see I'm writing on my screen some lines?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I can see.
So when I say that these HTTP methods, when are these requested? When are these calls? Right. So whenever there is a call from client to the server, whenever there is a call from client to the server, that call is called as a HTTP request, right? HTTP request. So what type of request it is? There is a get request, post request, right? Delete request, and put request, right? Patch request. So as the name tells, get the data, post, publish the data, delete the record. So whenever you want to delete some record, standard says that you should make a delete request, right? Put request, patch request. So whatever request you make from the client, right? Corresponding to that, HTTP servlet has a method. HTTP servlet has a method. So if you are making up a get request, it will go to the do get method, right? It will go to the do get method. And that is why if you see my first servlet, HTTP servlet class is having method with every, like function with every name, do get, right? Do put, do post. So it will have every, like see, do post, do put, do delete. Right. So a lot of method, do options. So now if I want to write any of these methods, how will I write them? What is the signature of this methods, right? Because if you want that my servlet should be called as a get method with the get method, then you would have to override, because it is already there inside the HTTP servlet, but you will override and tell, okay, what to be done, right? So public void do get, right? So do get will take two arguments. One is HTTP servlet request. It will take a variable request, right? And the second one will be HTTP servlet response, right? So now this will get the request. It will get all the information about the request. This will get all the information about the request, right? And this is going to get all the information returning to the client in the form of response. Anything to be sent back to the client will be the response, and anything sent from the client will be inside the servlet, right? Give me a quick confirmation. Aditya, is it clear to you? You can keep
Yep.
your microphone unmuted.
Yep, I can hear.
So now this method we are going to write inside our application, right? We'll write this method inside our application. So we go over here and tell that, okay, I want to write public void do get HTTP servlet request. request, right? And HTTP servlet response. So this is the signature that you have to follow. You cannot escape this, right? So inside this, I'm going to say do get and do post. So I need to import my request class also. So I have a do get method, right? So let's say the call comes to the server. If I try to write a system.out.println, remember this always used to go to the console of the system, right? Console of the system. So your client may not see any data inside this. Welcome to J2E. Okay, if I write like this. Now this output will not be visible to your client because this goes to the console, right? Where is your console? Here, right? So it will be visible at the server only. How can I show the data to the client, right? We'll see it, but let's try to deploy this and run and see whether this servlet is being called or not, right? Whether this servlet is being called or not. So if this servlet configuration is okay. Now, whenever you are making changes to the server, right, probably it is going to reload, right? Reload your configuration, all the changes that you have made. Reload means update, refresh your application, right? If there are any changes. But here, I'm going to run this again on the server. Okay, we got some error. Invalid URL pattern, welcome.view. Let's check this. What is the error inside here? Wait a second, let it deploy and then we'll rerun it.
You can rerun it without it deploying.
Sorry?
You can rerun it without it deploying, right?
If it was deployed previously, it will reload it, right? If it was deployed, it will reload it. You will get a message here, application reloaded. Once let me deploy and then I'll show you. I'm just checking up one configuration over here. All right, let's redeploy this. Run as run on server. Yes, now it is good. So we can give a call welcome.view. Right, so you can see your web page is empty. If you run this thing in the browser, this is an integrated browser in Eclipse, right? So if you run it here, you don't see any output, right? But your server will be having a output on console. This output is not visible to the client because client would be running your website inside the browser, isn't it? If he sees anything over here, means he is able to view it. Else he cannot see any output. Okay. Any question up till here? So about the reloading, let's go to this my first servlet Java. I'll say updated. Any changes to your Java code will lead to rerun your application. Save this. Wait for a second. It will reload this whole context. Right? So you can see reloading the context with the name has started and is completed. Okay. So any changes to your code will let your context reload. Any doubts?
No.
Good. Now I want to show this data to the client, like welcome to J2E, right? So I will be using up this response. Instead of writing a system.out.println, I have to write this out.println to the response. So I'll say response.out.println, right? So instead of ignore this is not the right syntax. I'm just giving a logic. So instead of system, I have to send the data to the response, right? So this out.println should go to the response. Now, how will response get this data? So you will evoke a writer from response, right? And it returns a print writer. Okay, put a habit of writing this variable as out. I'll tell you later why. So print writer, I will import it. Right, so print, now this, anything that you are going to write inside this print writer, right, using this print writer will go to the response, and response will be sending it to the client, right? So client will get this data. Now it is up to client that how
Not
it is going
yet.
to display.
We have to. Not yet because we haven't removed the system
Sorry,
in the thing.
about this one,
Like system.out.println.
we have yet to write some code.
Yeah.
We have yet
No,
to
we
write.
have to remove the system.
I got your point. Yes, we can remove this. I'm not going to remove this because this is for console. I would be writing up one more statement, right? So out dot print line. So here,
Okay.
yeah. So you were also right. If I remove it from here, obviously this will be now going to the print writer response object. So welcome to J2E. Okay, so now this output will go to the client, but I want to tell client also, okay, one more thing, you have to handle your exceptions. So add the throws declaration,
IOE exception.
IO exception, right? And along with that, you can also get a servlet exception. So you can handle a servlet exception also. So now here, out.println, I may require, I don't know why system started freezing up, 1 second. Okay. So now I want to tell the client that the data that I'm sending is something which you have to handle it inside the browser, right? So I'll tell a type of the data. So response dot set content type, right? So I'm going to tell a get content type. So set content type. So I'll tell that this type is text, and the style of like code is encoding of the code is HTML. Suppose you are going to respond a file. So you have to tell what type of file it is, whether it is HTML file or an Excel file, right? If you are sending up some media, you have to tell like whether it is audio, video, if audio, whether it is MP3 or wave sound, if it is media, if whether it is MP4 or a AVI, it is lossless or compressed data, right? So all those can be done with the help of content type. So you'll find a lot of content types. These are called as MIME type. Multi-purpose internet mail extensions, right? So there would be a lot of MIME types. So for example, I'm setting up a text HTML, but here you also have a plain. Suppose you only want to return a sample data. So here you see, you'll find a lot of configuration over here, right? MIME types. So now let's save this, reloading the context. I'll again go back and view this. Oh, actually I have stopped my server. So it's started, and I'll call this welcome dot view, right? So you can see now output is being displayed on your web page. Welcome to J2E, right? And you can get this output here also. The system.out.println value will come here. Rest will come here. Every time you make a request, the page will reload. The request will again come to the server, right? Okay. So now this, if you see over here, we have written, let me close this. So now if you see over here, we have written a doGet method, right? So that means it is handling a get request, right? If you don't have this method, the request coming from your browser URL won't work. /register.view. Right now you see, I think this is not the one. Let me check this. So if I run this, see, it says method not allowed. It can find your resource, right? It is not giving a 404. You have to be very like be aware of these HTTP status codes. If it is 404 means the resource is not found. The resource is not found means the endpoint mapped with the class, right? The class which is mapped with that endpoint is not existing. So that is 404. But here the class is existing, the servlet is existing, but it is not having the method that you have requested. Now what method you have requested? Browser sends a get request, and get request handler is not here. You can call this as a handler, right? So get request handler is not there. So if you want to handle the get request, mention it up over here, right? So suppose if I write a post method, do post. Okay, so same way you have to give the signature for post also. So now here I can write some message, system dot out dot println system.out.println and post request runs, right? So post will be accepting data from the client. So when should I call this post? I cannot call the post from my URL, right? I cannot call it from here. So to call this, I need some page, web page, which can have a form, right? Like in HTML, you make a form and then you write some action. So here I am going to call this post method. Remember, if you're calling this post method, your endpoint would be again welcome.view only, right? So whether you call get or post, it would be welcome.view. So here we go back and write here welcome.view. Remember, in your web XML, you wrote it as a /welcome.view. Don't write it here like a /welcome.view. Sorry, here. In this case, it is going to run it in this form. So this welcome.view will be considered after your server path, right? So this will be like an error. It won't identify the application itself, 404. So you should not add slash in the form action. If you add it a slash, ensure that you write the context path also. That is blog slash. This is also very good practice that you should write the context path, right? But when you're writing the context path, do not forget to add a slash. Then it will be like a /blog welcome.view. It will write blog 2 times. It will add the context path 2 times. Okay. So here we have the form, right? And inside the form, you can set the method that, okay, I want to make a post request. All the data of this form should go in the form of post request. Now, what will be the difference if I call a post or a get? Let's quickly see this. So I write an input, like let's say name input type equals to text. Name is equal to nm. Input type is equal to submit. I can put a submit button value also, value equals to submit. Okay, so this is my form, right? Now, if I go back to my form, to the default form, actually, I have not given the default file name. So index.html, now this is my form, right? If I submit some data and click on submit, see that data is going to the welcome.view in the form of get request, but get request is also carrying the data inside the URL, right? Which is like not secure one. So any confidential data should not be passed with get request. You cannot upload the files with get request. You require a post handler. Okay, and then, right. So now if I want to do this with a post request, so for the post request, we are going to write in the form that the method is equal to post, right? Now, when this method is equal to post, browser is going to make a post request on the submission of this form, and that will go to the post handler, right? So let's quickly see over here. I'm going to remove, let's copy this, come to a browser, and here we are going to add it. So I'll say blog index.html. I get this form, right? So now I submit some data inside this form. Okay, submit. Now you see the data is not being displayed in the URL. How is the data going to the server then? Let's go to the network, run my page once again. So see your request, this goes a request like index.html. The browser is asking this page from the server, right? And server is returning a response. Now, if you see over here, the response is like having a status code 304. You may be thinking like, why 304? The actual code should be 200, right? Whenever a page is transferred successfully, the code is 200. But here status code is 304. So you can identify that this 304 means that the data is taken from the local cache. It has not been taken from the server, right? But now you see the index.html is 200 because I removed the cache, and now it is not going to take it from the local cache. So now it's taking 200, means this index.html is brought from the server, and you will get the HTML code in the form of like a web page, right? So now you submit some data, submit, see, welcome.view is being called, and see the type of the request, post, status code is 200, means it is a successful request. And if I go further, where can I see the request data? So here you see, now the data will go in the form of form data, right? So our request param and the request value, param value, parameter name and the parameter value. Got it?
Yep.
Now, how can I get this data value, parameter value inside my post request? See, everything is going to come inside request, right? So I'm going to make a call inside the request dot get parameter. Any kind of parameter coming from the client can be taken like this. So you have to supply the name of the parameter. Remember, when the parameter is coming, it has a key and a value. Key is the parameter name, and this is the parameter value, right? So let's go over here and call this as request.get parameter. In the string form, you have to give the parameter name. So it is nm. So let's, now this get parameter is going to return you a string value, right? So I'm going to get this string value. So I'll say string name is equal to this. So I got this value. We can display it system.out. I'm displaying it to the server console, system.out.println, and we can print this name over here. So just to check whether I'm receiving this value in my post method or not, right? I can do a lot of things over here. I can send it to the database, right? I can do any API integration running. So whatever you want to do, you can do it over here, right? But these all things will be seen in like upcoming sessions. We have to basically understand how a servlet is working and how can I run it, get and post method today, right? So this was the post method. If I go back to my browser and I can run this like blog index.html. So name, and here I can call it, let's say test, submit. Right, so some data, you cannot see any output because post is currently not returning any output to the client. But here you can see both the system.out.println value, post request runs, and system.out.println name are visible, right? Any doubts?
Yep. No, none, no doubt.
Okay. Now, so what you have to do, you need to write a servlet, right? You need to write a servlet, creates its XML mapping, and write the same like form which I have written in the get, right? So that get should display some data, and post should accept some data from your index.html file. Now, a very short configuration we'll give over here is, if I want to add a new servlet, right? Eclipse gives you this feature, right? Eclipse helps you in creating up a servlet. So you can select the servlet from here. Now, what if I want to add, I want to add some servlet with some Java configuration, right? Java type configuration. So I can add it inside the same project itself. It's a very small description. I'm going to add an annotation, right? So I'll write a name like greeting servlet. Greeting servlet. And this is again a Pojo class, right? It's not a servlet right now. First thing, I have to extend it from the HTTP servlet. So once I extend it from HTTP servlet, now it is servlet. But I need to tell Tomcat that, okay, this is a servlet and it has to run on this particular URL. So use a @ symbol above the class description. This is called as annotation, right? Annotation does a lot of work in the background for you, right? And it takes away all these descriptive XML tags, etc., and helps you in configuring it from within your project. So I'll add this web servlet, right? So @ web servlet, and here I'm going to give some URL, right? I'm going to give a URL pattern that this servlet should run on this particular pattern, right? So here I'll give a information that this should run @ URL pattern is equal to / like greeting dot view, right? Save this. So let's run this servlet now, right? What I'll do, I'll deploy it. Now it would be reloading my context, but it will take some time to reload the context. So I'm just going to restart it. And now if I put greeting dot view, oops, we cannot see this. Oh yes, we have not created any, excuse me. We have not created any, sorry about this. Let me put on vibration. Right. So now I have not created any get or post method, right? And obviously when your browser is calling it, you would be getting a get request, right? One more method to write the get or the post method here. You can go to the source, override or implement the methods. See, all the methods are given over here. I want to implement my doGet method. Just click on OK, and you get this complete method given over here. Okay, so very easy. Now we can write a system dot out dot println and print a greeting over here. Okay, so now let's change this and call it as greeting dot view. I think it is not yet reloaded. Wait, yeah, now it is reloaded. So you will see the output now. Browser is blank. That means no 404 error. And you can see it is also returning me a 200. 200 means a okay response, right? And if you see over here in the system.out.println greeting, so you can write your response get a writer and write the output. Okay, so that is what you can do. Now you got to know how to write the servlet, both with XML configuration and the Java config, right? So we'll see more in the next session, and you can write the same as your homework. Create a servlet, try to get the post request generated from your HTML page, submit some data, try to use text fields, text area, radio buttons, right? And see how it sends the data to the servlet post request. Okay, so that's all for today's class. We'll meet in the next session then.
We still have to discuss about the school, how it's going to work for Wednesday classes.
Okay, 1 minute. I'll just stop the recording and we can discuss it.